Welcome, everybody, to the Far and Beyond podcast. I'm your host, Scott Jones. I want to thank you for joining us. And before we talk about anything, this helps us out a lot. Take a moment, like the show, hit the subscribe button to the channel, and please share this with your friends. Leaving your comments is also important to us because we get to read those. Even if you're watching a replay, we do get to read those, and we get to see what kind of questions you have. And when we're dealing with the topics we deal with, there are a lot of questions out there. We might not think to ask them, but we want to know what you think. So please put it out there. Thank you for doing that for us. And once again, thanks for joining us. We're recording this today on Veterans Day. So we definitely want to send out from Farr, from One Brother, One Sister, from the Sober Life Studios. Thank you to all of our veterans out there, and I guess our first responders a little bit, but really to our veterans out there too. Thank you so much for what you did. We don't know you all, but we owe you all. And we just want to make sure that we put it out there. Okay, guys, I got people with us here today. And we got Karyn Hurley and Stephany Eddowes. I was afraid of getting the last name wrong, and I screwed up the first name, Stephany Eddowes. And, of course, Karyn and I, we have one brother, one sister. We've been working together for years and years, known each other forever. And Stephany, I guess we've known each other for probably about 7 or 8 years now.
Probably, yeah.
Something like that. But you guys are both now involved in Farr, which is the Florida Association of Recovery Residences. Mm-hmm. And what is your involvement? Well, first of all, why did you get involved in Farr? Let's start with you, Karyn.
Well, I started actually getting involved with Farr in 2014 and 15. I was president of an arm of Farr. When I lived in New York State, actually opened sober living houses before they were actually called sober living houses. I just knew that people needed a place to be and be safe. So I had opened houses way back then. And then when I got to Florida, I met Bob Lehman and Rick Riccardi, and they asked me to be involved with Farr, and I became president of Arma Farr shortly after that. And so I've been on the board a couple of times. I'm on the main board. I'm also on the executive board. And, one of the things I think about recovery residences is that many of us, certainly me, when I was getting sober and clean, I didn't actually know where to go or what to do, and I didn't feel safe. And I think that recovery residents that provide a safe place, you've got a way to change your life. And that meets my heart. That meets everything that I believe. If we don't protect people getting sober and clean, I was protected by how you and I got sober all those years ago. Yeah. We were protected by the people who were sober longer than us. And I think we owe that to the people getting sober now, because you don't know where to go and what to do.
Yeah, back in those days, it wasn't sober living. We had our houses that we all bounced between, we all kept each other sober. But there's a lot of people that don't have that. That's so right. Sober living becomes very important. That's right. Stephany, you've been around working in addiction services, working in health services, all sorts of things for a long time.
Right.
What brought you into Farr, and why is it important to you?
So my background was I got involved with the treatment industry and helping to place patients into sober living. And I found it extremely difficult to get my patients to someplace that was safe and Farr accredited. There was a limited amount of housing when you go north in where I was from.
Right.
And so there was a lot down in Delray Beach, and there was a lot down in Palm Beach County and Broward, but there wasn't really anything up near me. I live on the Treasure Coast. So when I was trying to find housing for people, I found it difficult to find houses that were Farr accredited. So I met Karyn, and Karyn was involved in Farr, and she asked me if I had any, interest in becoming involved, and I did. I wanted to be a part of the new Farr movement that's happening, and I had a big belief in the people that were running it in the past couple of years, I guess it's been, right? Yes. So I was invited to be a part of that, and so I got involved so that I can help to foster the ability for people to get into sober living and that's safe and certified.
Yeah, and Farr, it's been around, I can't remember.
2011 is when Farr actually started.
So let me do some math. That's 13 years?
Yes.
Around 13 years or so. Unlucky 13. We'll move to 14 real fast. But before that, there were sober livings opening up everywhere. Everybody said, people got sober, and best of intentions.
Right.
I want to open a house. I want to do this. I'm going to make some money. Everything's going to be good. I'm going to take care of people. There's always bad characters in every business, whether it's McDonald's or whatever. You got bad characters. But a lot of people open these things with the best of intentions, and then it got difficult. They had problems. There's all sorts of issues, problems with the neighborhood, problems with the community, problems with their clientele, because they didn't have a support system. Is that kind of what Farr is a support system and a guideline to have better standards?
I think you have to go back to the beginning.
Okay.
And one of the reasons that Farr came into being to begin with was that there was not any legislation. There was not any help. There was not grants. There weren't any way to help people. And then we started getting reports that things were happening to people and people were relapsing. And there were a lot of bad reports, a lot of good, like you said, because a lot of good people do a lot of good things, but they also don't know how to do it. And they want to know, but they don't know, and they don't know where to go to know. So I think Farr, way back with Bob Lehman and Rick, that's how it started. The intention was to set a set of standards. The intention was to give people guidance, a place to go to ask a question. Right. And we never had that before. And then when they became part of NAR, which is national affiliate of recovery residences, then they got even more guidelines. And now there are guidelines that people need to follow. And so we all know how to do that. And if you don't follow it, then you have places to go and people have questions. And there's wonderful people that are on the staff of Farr now. And those people are knowledgeable and caring. And it had to grow. It was, a lot of people know Farr was messy for a lot of years off and on, but they kept trying and didn't give up. That's, it's like sobriety. You try, you don't give up. And I think that Farr has come to a point in its sobriety, we can say maybe, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, that's
it has grown enough now to be respected. It has guidelines. It has people who can answer questions. It has so many resources. And each month we're going to talk more about the resources as we do that. So I sat and watched when I was asked to be back on here 2 years ago, and it's my third round. And I sat and watched for 2 months and observed. I didn't say anything. And I was so impressed by the chairman, who is Michael Cabot. I'm impressed by our CEO, Michael Schlossman. I'm impressed by the whole staff and Josh and people that know what they're doing and they follow and give their word and they keep it. I'm impressed and I'm honored to be part of Farr.
Now, it's obviously to think that this is to protect the clientele, to protect the people. But Stephany, doesn't this also protect the ownership too by giving them the appropriate information? Like I said, a lot of good people end up in bad positions because they just don't know, right?
It does. It gives owners a place to call without having to worry about getting into trouble. They can call and ask the questions and not be made to feel inadequate because they don't know the answers. So everything is available to anybody who either wants to open a sober living home and get certified or, already has an established home and needs some guidance. And it also helps with the properties that are maybe a neighbor doesn't care for having a sober living house next to them. And so it allows them to contact Farr and get some support where that's concerned.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand their rights to be where they are.
Right.
And there are some areas where this particular zoning will not allow it. I mean, that's like any business. You got to make sure it's zoned properly. But once you're there, you're right. But you guys also give them guidelines so that they could deal with the community, so they can become an asset to the community as opposed to an eyesore, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and having the good neighbor policy, I don't even think communities know that people actually institute good neighbor policies, and they work hard to make sure that they are good neighbors. That's important. Nobody even knows about it. The communities don't know. And that's maybe one of the things that we can delve into more as we move on with different topics.
Absolutely. And Farr is about educating, and we want to educate not just certainly people who are new in recovery about what to look for in a sober house, but we want to educate the owners of the sober living, and we want to educate the cities, the communities, the townships, and all of that in what this means to your community, because it's not. Every once in a while, there might be something that goes wrong. And that also is good for the community, where they can call Farr and say, listen, is this one of your houses? Could you check on this for me? I'm concerned.
Sure.
And maybe it won't be a big deal, and maybe it is, but at least there's that something. There's been no other than Farr. Has there been any representation or any support for these sober livings anywhere?
No.
Not that I'm aware of.
No, NAR, the national, but in Florida itself, Florida Farr is the only one that's doing this. Now DCF comes in, but Farr is the one that's helping support the sober livings, and that happened 2 or 3 years after Farr was created. NAR came in, and we followed those guidelines as well, because that's been around a whole lot longer. So
Farr also interprets what's going on obviously in Tallahassee and what's going on federally as well, to make sure that the houses have that information about what laws are coming around and what protections that they have. There's also like a point that we don't really push out there too much, but why not make that your starting point? If you want to open a sober living, why don't you call them first before you start looking at properties, before you start doing the wrong thing, right? Is that what we'd like to see?
Yes, absolutely. Exactly. There's an army of people at Farr that want to help.
Yes.
And we can't have too many sober living facilities, because there's a lot of people out there that are trying to get sober.
Right.
So
absolutely.
one of the things that Stephanie and I talked about, because we're the chairs of the PR committee, and one of the things she and I had talked about was luncheons. Why don't we go around the state and do luncheons?
Right.
And that grew. So now we're going to be in 6 areas around the state with big luncheons and talking about what Farr is. But Stephanie and I were at Floridians for Recovery, and we presented Farr there. And out of there, I received 3 contacts. And 2 of them, one was trying to open a sober living. The other one had just opened, wasn't sure. And the other one didn't follow through. But 3 people contacted us to open because they were interested in what Farr was and how to be part of it.
And how to do it.
Yes.
Where do I start?
Exactly. Well, you don't go on a road trip without having some directions,
Right.
without knowing where you're going. You don't leave your house and just like, hey, wherever I end up. Okay, I've done that before. It was back in motorcycle days, not these days. You want to get somewhere, you got to know how to get there. If you want to build something, you got to know how to do it right. And Farr is, not only do they have what they can offer you, but again, they could offer you what are the laws and what are the things that, you have certain rights, and then you have certain things where you cannot do those things. But you need to know those things up front. Right. How many sober livings, just in our experience, but without Farr, just think about our experience down here. How many times we've seen sober livings open and close, just flop and fail, and people get in trouble? Right. How many times?
A lot.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I worked in treatment ever since we've been here 14, 15 years. We worked in treatment centers that we made sure Farr accredited. However, around us, there were several that weren't Farr accredited. And that's one of the reasons why we got involved again because of that.
And here's another thing that I find myself educating people about is that statute in Florida that says licensed treatment centers it is illegal for them to refer a patient to a sober living unless they are Farr certified. That's a statute in Florida.
Right.
And a lot of providers don't know that. When I'm traveling and I'm meeting, people that are owners of treatment centers and administrators of treatment centers, a lot of these people are not aware of that statute. And so when the case managers and the discharge planners are, but a lot of the other people aren't. Even the therapists aren't.
That's right.
And so I find myself educating them and telling them, look, you need to go to a Farr certified treatment center sober house. Here is the website. Here's where you can refer people and not get yourself into trouble.
And if you're a treatment center and you're listening to this, or a treatment professional, and good sober livings that haven't gotten around, there could be great ones out there that haven't gotten around to doing please encourage them to do the Farr certification. Please encourage them if they're doing things the right way. it's not that much more work that you have to do.
Right.
And if you have any concerns about money, they'll work that out with you. They'll make payments. They'll do those things. They've done that for people because they want people to be certified in doing things the right way. If you're doing things the wrong way, get turned around now. Trust me, you're going to pay a lot more when you're sitting in jail wondering, why am I in jail? And people do go to jail for some of these things, don't they?
Or
fined.
fined. There are places, that are treatment centers that now they're being fined for not being part of Farr. And so what are the question, what does Farr do for you?
Right.
Okay.
That's the big question.
What does Farr do for you? Well, first of all, you're part of a network throughout the state. You have credibility because you're part of this network that has guidelines that we all have to follow. And, it just makes sense to me that we're part of a big unit. And you can talk to the person up in Pensacola. You can talk to the person over in Tampa or Clearwater, and you can work all together. And the more we work together, one of the things, at least for me as a recovery person, is I did everything by myself. I was a loner. So learning to be part of a team, and this is a big team that really supports each other. And we have to be parts of teams in order to be okay. And I think that's
a good point,
right?
That really is. And there's also this level of transparency that happens when you become part of Farr where, you just kind of open up and say, hey, here's what I'm doing and everything. You don't have to worry about every little thing. You've got a team now. You got a team. Exactly. You got people to help you out. Exactly. Farr's thing is not to take your money and leave you forever. Farr's thing is to bring you into the family and keep you informed, give you trainings, give you education, right. Let you know what's changing and what's not changing.
Right.
I'm not sure that there's a legitimate argument not to do it. There's still people who aren't. But have you heard any arguments about why people don't want to join Farr?
Not in a very long time.
But it's mostly based on the old days.
Correct.
When they do say anything to you, it's based on 5, 6, 8, 10 years ago. It's not based on what has been happening the last 2 years. I mean, I have been on the executive board for the last 2 years. We met every Monday, every Friday. We did everything we could to support the staff and the team at the Farr office. And I think every single person is so dedicated that's on the board, don't you?
Yes, I do.
I mean, the
Absolutely.
People that are on the board care so much about what's happening for people getting in good recovery places and be part of that team. It's so important.
And they're not all in South Florida anymore. We have people from all over the state of Florida that are involved on the board and are involved in moving this forward and really becoming something really, really good.
And we actually we're placing people in different parts of the state because this isn't like Rhode Island. Give me an hour, I'll drive to the other side of the state. This is like, okay, I'll be gone for a week. I got to go up north. It's a big state. So we are putting people, Farr is putting people out there so that we can speed up response times. We can speed up our inspections and all of those things. And we're doing all of that to make it easier on people.
We have staff that's not just on over here anymore. We have staff over in the Tampa area.
That's what I'm saying.
We have staff in I believe they're getting ready to do a Pensacola area.
Right.
So there's staff everywhere to help people, and that's what's important. And again, Farr, the new Farr, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be on. You wouldn't be on.
No.
And the people that are on this board, I totally respect. I know you do too.
Yep.
And if it hadn't changed, we wouldn't be growing and doing the things we're doing. I mean, we're going to be in 6 areas of the state at every single month in the next 6 months.
Yep.
The next one is this week, November 14th.
Right. In the Treasure Coast.
Yes.
And
it got
Central.
so booked we had to close it.
Right.
And we're going to probably do a backup or something because we want you to come and ask questions. See what Farr is now.
Yeah.
Not the old Farr, the new Farr. Mm-hmm. Let us help you.
Absolutely. And I want to encourage everybody out there, if you haven't talked to them yet, you can go to info@farronline.org. You can certainly go to their website. Farronline.org is the website, but you can go to info@farronline.org for an email. 561-299-0405 is a number you can call if you want to talk to somebody there. Ask questions. If you've got a simple question, you've got something that maybe you've got a house, maybe you're thinking about doing it. Start with the experts. Start with the people who know the ins and outs, and start with the people who also have seen all the pitfalls. I mean, that's the thing. Most of these people, Stephanie, they don't go out there to try to get in trouble. It just, one thing happens and another. We've seen this happen in regular businesses.
Right.
But the problem is when this happens and you start going downhill, you start cutting corners, then we're dealing with lives. And that's what really is scary, isn't it?
That's the scary part. And we have 2 attorneys at Farr, employed by Farr, that can answer any questions, legal questions about it. And, they're not going to charge you $100 an hour. You call up, you ask the question, it's the right answer. So you don't have to worry, geez, I wonder if, Joey down the street who owns a house is telling me the right thing. No, you have attorneys. That's right. So that's a huge plus.
I would not go to a dentist, to a doctor, or even to a car mechanic where there wasn't standards in place.
Right.
And for years, without standards, sober livings, again, some with the best intentions, some with not so good intentions, but they can never be fully what they could be because they didn't have an organization driving the ship. Now we do. And we're seeing this spread out. How many places do we have now? Anybody? Just an idea?
Oh my gosh, that would have been a good question, wouldn't it?
Like an idea?
I don't know the answer to that,
There
but
are
I
a
know
lot.
that just in the past year, when we started focusing on inviting people in to become Farr certified that were not, we've had a big number that have chosen to become, certified because of all the benefits that are there for them.
Absolutely. And like you said, a lot of this was focused mostly in South Florida, Florida being pretty much, we'll say, from Orlando down. Or even further south.
No, it's actually West Palm down.
Beach.
West Palm down.
Yeah.
Well, West Palm is like every other house is a
was.
treatment center or a sober living. It's like when I grew up
It's very
in
concentrated.
Syracuse, when I grew up on the east side where the Italians lived, every other house was a church or a bakery. And that's how I grew up.
Right.
Down here, it's a rehab or it's a sober. But there's a huge number, obviously, Delray, Palm Beach, getting into
Broward was
Fort
big,
Lauderdale.
but now
big.
it's just grown.
Miami-Dade's got a bunch, but it's really grown.
It
and
has.
we're able to get out there. And that's from the good work that was done. There were times when this might not have worked. There were times when, back in Bob Lehman's days, when it would have been easier just to quit than to try to keep this thing going. But thank God they did, right?
They did.
Well, and they did do a lot of good work, and they paved the way for us. I don't want to say that what they did wasn't effective because
no, absolutely.
It was, but it got, I think what happened was it got a little bit bigger than the people that were trying to run it, and it just grew so fast that it kind of got, without the right leadership in place, it's hard to manage that, right?
Yeah.
And I think all the intentions were good, and God bless them for the work that they did do. We have some structure in place today, some leadership in place, and it's working. It's really working. You mentioned quickly that we had attorneys, but let's talk about we're not going to talk about each one individually, but we've got attorneys. We've got people who are professional addiction industry people. Correct. What else do we have there? We've got educators. Yeah. We got other business people, local business people. Well, we have recovery community organizations. Yeah. So we're able to connect the folks that are living in the houses to the peer supports that are in their areas, which is huge. Yes. The recovery community organizations are fantastic, and they're partnering up with Farr. Wow. And we have, we have board members that are, and come to the committees that are part of our COs. Yeah. So, recovery community organizations are so important for support, again, team, Farr, our COs, and then sober living. And if we all work together, we get to have something really special. Mm-hmm.
That's great, and we're gonna have events coming that we're gonna be talking about on this show, and
That's the brunch and learn in the 6 areas.
I'll be interviewing other people. You gotta watch when Susan Ramsey comes on because that's always a great
yeah, she's gonna be awesome.
And
she's an attorney.
And Michael and all, we got a couple of Michaels.
We do.
We're gonna bring those guys in sporadically. Once a month, we're gonna have Karyn and Stephany join us, and they're going to be telling us about the events and what's going on with Farr, any changes going on. But really, I'm going to put it up one more time. I want everybody to please just take a screenshot of this or something. If you have anything to do with addiction recovery, you want to make sure you understand the work that's going on at Florida Association of Recovery Residences. info@farronline.org is a great email to contact them. And 561-299 0405. And if you happen to meet Josh, hug him really hard and tell him
He loves that.
he's a drummer. He needs hugs. He doesn't get enough attention. So give Josh a big hug. But there's so many great people involved in this.
Sure is.
What looking down the road, are we seeing like this is what we want to achieve? Is there anybody talking about that? Or are we still just day to day right now trying to?
There's, we're talking. Certainly, the brunch and learns are all set up around the state for the next 6 months.
Yeah, we've got the schedule down. We know where we're going. We're going to have those. So stay tuned so that you can get the information.
And Farr, their outreach into the regular communities and stuff. This is changing now too with these kind of events and more events that we're not even. We haven't even.
And they do have,
thought of yet. It's just going to, we haven't even imagined, but we're all about it because educating the community improves the houses that way as well, too.
Yeah, and they do Zoom twice a month, the on-call where you can call in and talk about what's going on. And that can be, please get a hold of Stephany or myself
we'll
or Scott, anybody that we can help you to get in. You don't have to be Farr accredited to come, but come and talk, come and listen, come and change your mind, because Farr is here to support you, not to hurt you.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about support. It's about building a network. The network is happening, but it was not connected together. Now we're starting to see all of them connected. And, the days of having one place down the street from the other place, one loses, one wins. Let's get them all so that everybody wins, and let's help everybody.
There certainly is no shortage of people that need to find a safe place to live.
That's right.
And this would be a joy for us to go out of business because there's no more issues. It would be a joy. That's not going to happen. I wish if it did, I'll go sell used cars again. I'd be fine with that. But we've got a long road to hoe here, and we really got to think about getting everybody on board. So, and that's what we're doing. So
I'd like to say something about Veterans Day. We're one brother, one sister. I'm on the board of Farr, but we're one brother, one sister, Scott and I, and we educate veterans. My son is a combat vet, 4 tours of duty, and my heart is certainly with veterans that we have met and we've been able to be friends with. And today, we thank you for your service. We thank you for all of the sacrifices that you have and your families. I watch my grandchildren sacrifice as well because their dad wasn't there. And so please, if you know a veteran, thank him today. Text them, talk to them. They deserve our support and our love. And you work for a place that does veterans.
I work for iMind Mental Health Solutions, and the owner is a veteran. And so he's, and one of the guys that works with me is also a veteran too. And so we have a very special, soft spot for our vets.
So we want to thank you for
do a lot of work directly with PTSD and trauma and things like that.
Yes,
that's so good.
We have a lot of great outpatient mental health programs that we use for veterans. So
that's good. Thank God. I mean, it wasn't that long ago we couldn't even mention things like trauma and
now we can.
To an adult. It's like, I'm a man. I don't have trauma. That's a woman thing, and all sorts of stuff.
Right.
It's all changing, and now, thank God, the treatment is there. So make sure people check that out. Check out One Brother, One Sister.
Yeah,
as well.
And that's one of the things that when I'm talking to the sober living homes that I explain to them is that yes, sponsors are good, and sober livings are good, and therapists are good, and RCOs, and there's so many opportunities out there for people to utilize. You know, when you get sober and you've got your 30 days and you move into a sober living house, and now you start, you know, putting back the wreckage of your past. This is where the rubber hits the road. So this is where you need a structured house or living situation around you. And when that happens, and you have people around you that are making it their business to stay sober, you know, that's where you find
the glue.
Yep, that's the glue. Correct.
That's the glue.
In a nutshell, Farr wants to improve the services and the structures and all of that of sober living throughout the state of Florida. That's what Farr's trying to do, so that everybody who does open one opens one with full knowledge of what they need to do, what they're supposed to do, and every client gets an opportunity at recovery through these houses. Not just a few who can make it to the good ones, but make all of them good. And that's what we're trying to do.
Right.
I also I can ask one last question before we sign off, and we got so much more to talk about, so stay tuned to this. But parents looking for a place for their children, a sober living house or a spouse could be, but a lot of times it's parents. Can they go to Farr and find out which places are accredited and get information?
Sure can.
What I suggest they do is to write a list of questions down before they get started.
Yeah.
Concerns, and then they can go right online and look at the list of houses geographically and then whether or not, you know, it's any specialties in there. There's LGBTQ houses. There's, you know, all different types of different specialty
men's,
houses.
women's, everything.
Right. Some allow this, some don't allow that. So they can go on and look at that, and then directly call the phone numbers there. Call and ask questions of the house managers. We'll be happy to answer questions.
And then go back and ask Farr.
And you can call Farr,
because you know, one of the things about the staff at Farr, Josh certainly been there a long time. He knows the people.
Right.
We call and ask if we get a question. I call and say, where do I go? Who's what do you think is going to fit this?
Yeah.
Please use the staff. They're there to help you.
Right.
Absolutely. Check that out. It's a shame that people spend more time shopping and researching their next car and very little time researching where they send their children for care that could save their lives. Whether it's a rehab, whether it's any kind of treatment center of any kind or sober living, these things need to be researched. So do your due diligence, call Farr. They can take all of that weight off your shoulders.
That's right.
Because if they are Farr accredited, it means somebody is watching and somebody is making sure that they're following these standards.
And these people that join Farr want that guideline, want the accreditation, want to let you know that they are who they say they are.
And they're serious about what they're doing.
Right.
That's right. That's right. So you have been watching Farr and Beyond. I want to thank Stephany and Karyn for joining us.
Thank
you guys
you.
are going to be back. These guys are working hard. As a matter of fact, as soon as we get off this, we got to set up because we got a big lunch coming up. We got all this other stuff going on and some kind of meetings later today. I don't even know. We just show up. Why? Because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to show up.
Suit up and show up.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what we do.
And the best news of all is that people out there who are trying to do the right thing, you're not working alone anymore. Connect with the services that Farr has, and you'll realize that we want to back you in doing the right thing every step of the way. Don't forget to like this show, share, subscribe to the channel. That's what it is, and share this with other people, and leave comments because we will be reading them. For now, this is Farr and Beyond for Stephany and Karyn. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We will catch you next time. Hey, remember, everybody, be nice to each other.